All right, chemistry students, I wanted to introduce Chapter 9 to you and get it started. So there's going to be a handout called Chapter 9 Important Figures, and you should recognize this kind of diagram that we've seen from your textbook before that sort of breaks down like, all right, if we're talking about mixtures, we've got homogeneous and heterogeneous mixtures. Chapter 9 is all about solutions. So technically, by definition, a solution is a homogeneous mixture. But you're going to learn a lot more in Chapter 9 about solutions if you look at these lower boxes at the bottom, okay? But what I want to mention to you, because there's a lot of information in Chapter 9, okay? What I want to mention to you is kind of sort of four major areas. I'm going to list them out. So essentially mixing solutions, and the abbreviation for solution for chemists who are lazy, just write SOL''N, so it kind of looks like Soln. But so it's sort of mixing solutions. You're going to hear words like solubility, that's actually down in that purple box down here. Hear words like solubility. In other words, do these solutions actually mix? Because remember, a mixture contains more than one substance. Okay, so you could have a solution as long as you've got at least two components in there. You could make a solution with three different things if you wanted to, but most people just pick two. Okay. So you're going to hear words like solubility. You're going to hear words like, let me erase my two, miscible. Okay, and then the opposite of that would be immiscible. Okay, so that's basically like, do these two substances mix or not mix? And we're going to use our knowledge of intermolecular forces from earlier to answer that. Okay, so that's sort of the first part we're going to look at. The next part, remember these little brackets mean concentration. Okay, so concentration, I'm going to say concentration options. Okay. The biggest one that is the most popular in chemistry is molarity, so I will list that here. But if you see, that's actually at the very bottom of this table 9.4 that I've put from your textbook. But if you see, there are 5 other choices that are just listed in this table, and believe it or not, there are actually more choices that exist out there for options of concentration, and one of them is in this purple table that are equivalents. I'm trying to underline it. Okay, so we're going to go through different concentration options because there's going to be a lot of them. There's a lot of different ways to determine the amount of substance in a solution. Okay, it just depends on what you're working with, which concentration is easiest. The third thing that we're going to look at is dilution. Okay, because oftentimes we might have a stock solution, in other words, something that's really, really high. Like diabetics might have insulin, they'd have like a bigger concentrated solution that's really high concentration. They don't want to take that much insulin, so they might mix it with some saline solution, and that would be a dilution. That would be an example of a dilution, okay? So there's a formula for that and some mathematical calculation that you're going to need to know how to do for dilution, okay? The last part is really looking at properties of solutions, okay? And some of that we're going to look at earlier, even in the mixing part and sort of the earlier videos, okay? But we are going to look at properties, and there's a series of properties called colligative properties, this blue box on the right. There are several colligative properties, which is a fancy way of saying like certain types of properties that it doesn't matter what the solute is, and we'll define solute in a solution in the videos, but all of these properties are true for all solutions, okay? So an example would be the freezing point depression. That's why we put salt on the roads when it's freezing out, because then they will less likely to be frozen because it will will lower the freezing point. Excuse me. So that's just the introduction. Just wanted to give you a brief 5-minute introduction. You have calculations for all of these, but you don't need to know all of the calculations. For the concentration component, you will. You're going to want to have your calculator out and be able to practice the calculations for those different concentration choices. Okay, so don't forget to look for the Chapter 9 Important Figures handout and get it printed and get familiar with these units and some of the properties of solutions as we go through them. Okay, so thank you for listening and get ready for Chapter 9 material.